No one even knows that joke. Because they don't have phone books anymore.
Need one to drive with, actually, back in the day. Right, we're going to get going with Utah with Coach Amy Hogue, Mariah Lopez, and Alyssa Bonstrom. Please remember to silence your phones and give your name and affiliation whenever you ask a question. You may want to open with an opening statement.
Yeah, so go Utes. Being here is exciting. It's been a long time. Apparently 29 years, someone's been keeping track. It's changed a lot. The game's grown a ton. And I couldn't be happier to be here with the group that I've got here today.
Open questions. Barry?
Barry Trammell, the Oklahoman. I believe you were on that '94 team. What do you remember about Utah's trip that year?
I remember that we weren't expected to be there, kind of like this year. We were scrappy and played as a team, kind of like this group. We had more fun than anybody. That year we opened with Oklahoma State in game one, so I don't think anyone cheered for us except for maybe the 100 that we brought from Salt Lake. But we just had a good time, you know. That's what Utah does. That's our culture, and it's been that way, and it's still that way.
Should we go to Joe in the middle row on the right?
Joe Masato, the Oklahoman. Amy, just a bigger picture question for you. Pace of play has been a big topic of conversation as games get a little longer. Do you see that as an issue at all? And if so, do you have any ideas of things you would want to see changed?
I think some days it's an issue for sure. I know we talk about it a lot, trying to find some good ideas to change it, mostly to fit within a TV window. Our sport is so fantastic to watch on TV. And if we have to speed it up in order to get those prime windows, then we absolutely should continue to figure out how to do that. I've always thought the strike zone needs to get a little bigger or even be called with the size that it is. We're calling too many balls, and I think that any of the games that I feel like the strike zone allowed for us to call corners, those are the games staying under 2 hours. So I think that's the easiest fix rather than changing too many things about the game that are already so great. So call the strike zone the way that's intended, which includes corners. Makes it a little safer too. It's getting a little dangerous.
Back row.
For Alyssa and Mariah both, you know, your coach talked about it just a minute ago. Maybe you weren't expected to be here, but you guys have fought all year, Pac-12 champions, all the way through the postseason and all that. Have you guys embraced that chip on your shoulder mentality through this year?
Yeah, I think what helped us was not making postseason last season. We had the record, we were right there to make it, and we were just one of those bubble teams that didn't make it. And so I think that kind of led to this year where all season we have been saying we're going to be here at this time. And so I think if we wouldn't have made postseason last year, it wouldn't have been as great of a story as it is this year. And so it's definitely that chip on the shoulder mentality for this year.
I agree with her. I think that we've known from the start of this year that we were going to make it here. And so just playing like that all year, taking that with us into this weekend and just playing like we know we should be here.
More questions in the room? Barry?
Yeah, Les and Mariah, Pac-12 is a great softball conference. You guys are not in one of the necessarily tropical weather places of the Pac-12. How do you compensate for that in terms of, you know, you have sort of a real winter unlike Tucson and LA and places like that. What are ways that Utah compensates and is able to compete at the same level?
Yeah, well, we practice, I mean, the same as other teams. We'll just practice indoors, and if we have to like postpone our games, we'll still get our games in like everyone else, just a little bit later in the season.
Yeah, I think it's just adjusting to conditions. I mean, we're a team that thrives on just going with the flow, and it doesn't scare us or shock us when, you know, it snows a day before we got to play. Like, okay, let's get out and shovel the field. So we're definitely a team that kind of thrives on just going with the flow. And, you know, like, yeah, weather conditions may not be great, but we're going to go out and play Utah softball.
Back row. Love.
Coach Justin McLaughlin from Extra Inning Softball. What Alyssa was just mentioning about, last year you missed the postseason, you're just on that bubble and you just miss out. Have you seen that, I don't want to say that recollection, but have you seen that drive in your team, and have you fostered that, or is it just kind of something they foster amongst themselves?
Most of the things are things they foster amongst themselves, especially because for this particular moment that happened last year and being a bubble team and not getting selected, it was right before summer. So I don't have any control of what the summer looks like for them. But they took it upon themselves to make sure they did the work like they never have through the summer and come back in the fall more prepared than ever. So because of that fact, when they started up in the fall, we got to start at a place we've never started before because they were so much more fit and ready to go. So, I mean, it raised the bar already, and they did that themselves. And because of that starting point and then that attitude throughout the season, they just built stronger and stronger and got to places they haven't been in a really long time.
All right, I think we have a couple questions on Zoom. Could we start with Dana Green?
Hey guys, can you hear me out there?
Go ahead.
Okay, great. For Coach, just the experience of playing Washington, you've done it 4 times already and very recently in the Pac-12 tournament. How does that experience help knowing that, you have beaten them a couple times this year?
Yeah, we're 2-2 against those guys. Very familiar. We're familiar to them. They're familiar with us. So that brings its own challenges. I like the fact that it's familiar for us because this environment is going to be so unfamiliar that it'll give us one more thing to settle our team, I think. If they look up and aren't used to being in front of 16,000 people, but they see a hitter, that we're facing that they are familiar with, it might help comfort them on that first game. But yeah, they're a great team. It's going to be a battle. It's going to be a chess match. A lot of back and forth, a lot of common knowledge about each other. So it's usually a grind. It's usually a battle. But when we play that many times, usually the score's a little elevated. But because of the intensity of the moment, it's probably going to be whoever can settle in with their nerves the best probably has the advantage.
Okay, we'll stay on Zoom and go to Alex.
Hi, Coach. What do you remember about how the jumping in the pool celebration first started in 1991, and why did you choose to continue it this year with your team?
1991 was a long time ago. Let's see what I remember about it. I remember we were excited and we won and it was hot. We were in Texas. So we got off the bus and the gates weren't locked or anything. The pool was just behind the hotel, so we just jumped in. The bus driver got in and everything. That's what I remember about that. As far as continuing it, it just is fun. And this group wins championships. They do hard things, and then they enjoy what they did, and that's part of it. So that's why we've continued it.
Okay, we have one more on Zoom from Eric Lopez.
Eric Lopez in the circle. Coach Hogue, talk about DJ and Paige and the impact they've had here. Obviously, record-setting numbers offensively, great pitching. And in Paige's case, obviously, having that experience of playing in this setting and winning, having success.
Yeah, how about that staff I have? That was probably some of my best recruiting I've done to date, is finding those two. Making them through and through Utah people. They love it. Yeah, so DJ runs the hitting program. I think early on, he was so eager that he pretty much vomited everything he knew about hitting to our players and probably overwhelmed them at first, but he never slowed down. Like, I love the fact that he said, I know all these things and I want to help you, so hurry and catch up and learn it all as quick as you can. And I think that he's been here long enough now that, and he's a great example of this, she took what it was that he had to say, and it just took a while before she could perform the way that he wanted, meaning to learn the style of hitting that he was teaching. And now we're very settled in it. It's very exciting to see the progress that we've made as a program under his leadership in the hitting side. As far as Paige goes, she couldn't wait to get time with this one, with Mariah being a lefty pitcher and knowing what she could help Mariah develop. I'm pretty sure she took the job because she wanted to have her be the first one to lead us here to the World Series. She had it in her mind what it looked like. She's done it before, and here we are.
Okay, we'll get two more on Zoom. We'll go to Alex back on Zoom.
This is for Mariah and Alyssa. What do the two of you think of the jumping in the pool celebration? And because you guys are basically diving in it, it looks kind of scary. Like, do you guys ever worry about when the coach, when she flips, getting hurt or anybody getting hurt? And is anybody, maybe not a strong swimmer and choosing not to participate in it?
I mean, that definitely wasn't even a thought for any of us. We all just kind of went in, and that was just something that we knew that Utah softball does. And so we just went with the tradition. And, if anyone drowned, we were there to help them up. So thankfully that didn't happen. But I will say it is kind of challenging jumping in with full uniforms and trying to swim back up to the top. But we all did it, thankfully.
Yeah, I mean, we were all super excited to jump in and be part of that tradition. The biggest challenge was just trying not to jump on each other, but that was a lot of fun.
Okay, last question will come from Dana Green on Zoom.
Hey, this is for Alyssa and Mariah. Just what's it like being there in Oklahoma City? This is the dream. This is what you've worked your entire lives towards is getting to the College Softball World Series, the Women's College World Series. What's it like being there? I know the games haven't started, but is the excitement level just palpable for you guys?
I mean, to start, it's very surreal, especially, I know it hasn't started yet, but I mean, doing these press conferences and just being here in Oklahoma City, I think all of us have dreamed of being here as little girls, and just to kind of live out that childhood dream is very special. So yeah, just trying to soak in every moment that we have here is definitely what we're trying to do.
Yeah, this is definitely the dream, and I think that everyone still is kind of in shock. This is real, and so we're just trying to make the most of it and have a lot of fun together.
All right, that'll wrap things up for Utah. Thank you, Amy, Mariah, and Alyssa.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yep.
Go Utes.